Well, thank you to the Wit for our first email for our next segment on potty training. Good morning, Incontinence Line. Can you hold, please? Had to happen, didn't it? That is our guest indeed. Toilet training and saying goodbye to nappies is a major milestone for children and parents. But for some children it doesn't happen as naturally as it does for most. What is considered a normal age for toilet training and dry nights? And what are the early warning signs of problems? What strategies can parents use to overcome issues? Marianne Harris is a Tauranga-based continence nurse advisor with the Bay of Plenty District Health Board who works with children with toileting difficulties and advises families around the country. Marianne, very good morning.
Good morning.
I bet you've heard that joke before.
Yeah, once or twice, yes.
Your advice will be welcome this morning. Some of the emails and questions are coming in already. So let's just set out some of the basics. What is this average age, or what is the sort of normal range of ages for toilet training?
For toilet training, there's a little bit of a difference between girls and boys, but with girls it's around 36 months of age and boys around 38 months. But there's no such thing as normal. We just have averages. What
happens? Like for parents going through this the first time, and obviously they're getting to grips with nappies and they're getting to grips with, I guess, being the first port of call, if we can put it that way. But how do things unfold in those first 3 years of life?
Well, just when a baby is born, it's a reflex to void or empty their bowels, and by the age of 1 to 2 years, they gradually gain an awareness that their bladder is full. By the age of about 3, they're able to control the muscles of the pelvic floor and hold on. By the age of 4, they can actually stop the flow of urine when they're passing urine, so they can hold on and get to the toilet. And by the age of 6, they're able to actually go to the toilet at any stage, no matter how full the bladder is. They can control when they go.
So that's the physiology of it, and I apologise, I had the wrong surname for you written down on this bit of paper, so my apologies. Marianne Caulfield I'm speaking to.
Yes.
So that's the physiology of it. There are many other factors that come into play, of course, and it's a big milestone. It's a big, almost psychological and emotional milestone for a young child, and we tend to want to encourage and nurture and not put too much pressure on, but it's one of the big sort of steps they take, if you'll pardon the pun, along with the advance to walking and beyond. It's one of the big steps of early life.
It is, very much so. And speaking of steps, there's many steps involved in actually going to the toilet. I think the main thing with toilet training is the child needs to be ready. They need to be indicating that they're ready, and the parents need to be ready, or the carers, and not doing it as per Nana's children were all potty trained at the age of 1, because that's not realistic. They need to be ready, the child needs to be ready, and the signs need to be there that the child is ready.
What are those signs? How do you know they're ready, but also how do you help facilitate their readiness? Are you talking about, start talking in a certain way, or what? How does that happen?
Yeah, well, the signs of readiness in the child, they should be able to actually hold on for up to 2 hours, so stay dry for up to 2 hours. That means they've got some bladder control and pelvic floor muscle control. They need to be able to identify when they're wetting or soiling, so they're aware of those sensations, what's going on down there. They tend to show an interest in other people's toileting habits, so the little 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old that's following mummy to the toilet and trying to get up and close and watch what's going on. They've got to be able to communicate and talk about that they have some comprehension, or that they want to go to the toilet, and it can be simple as saying wheeze or poos, or, toilet language, basically. They've got to have some sort of dexterity. They've got to be able to move to the toilet, get on the toilet, or remove their clothing, get on the toilet, albeit with assistance from the adult helping them along the way. Following instructions is another one. They need to know what the steps are with toileting. And probably the biggest thing is wanting to please others. And then if they know they're going to get a good reaction by doing the toileting behaviours, they're going to be more enthusiastic about doing them.
Fine line between that and feeling under pressure, isn't it?
Yes, and I do see that at times where the adults are trying to toilet train because that's what's expected by other people, instead of what's right for them and the child. And trying to please, just even though they're physiologically not ready for it, is a a hard one for some people to get their heads around, and I spent quite a bit of time trying to normalise things and then going on to coming up with plans for the children. Yeah.
Love to talk about some of those plans in a moment. Here's one emailer with some sensible advice. Relax, take the pressure off, encourage any little moment of independence, even if it still ends in a mess, then leave them to want it for themselves. And I guess that's a point. The steps are quite complicated for a small person. I mean, even the size of a loo's quite intimidating, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Along the way, it's bloody cold, I seem to remember from way back the distant past, and there's a sense of things to have to coordinate, as you say. So is the way you respond to the bits that go wrong, not quite making it, all this kind of thing, the way you respond to that very important in building confidence?
Yes, it is. But they're going to have the little mishaps, no matter, I mean, right up to school age, children are still having little wetting accidents or even soiling accidents sometimes. As long as they're trying, you're rewarding the try and the effort and celebrating any success they have. Any mishaps or accidents, just downplay it. Go, whoops, we'll just clean this up. Get the child to be involved with the cleaning up and carry on.
Should you constantly take the child to the loo when the process has started, and as you say, they've reached a point where they're indicating that they want to be able to do it, they want to be able to learn? When you are seeing the signs that they might be, and they can often give those signs away quite obviously, that they need to go, is taking them to the toilet helpful, or does it inhibit their own sense of decision making and, as you say, recognising that the bladder's full and I need to get moving?
Prompting them rather than insisting is more helpful. It's letting them stay in control of it, but also recognising the times that you might need to prompt the child. Like 5 minutes after having a cold drink, they'll more often feel like going to the toilet then. So give them the drink and their snack or whatever, and then say to them, would you like to go to the toilet? It's giving the child control, but predicting when it's likely to be that they are going to void.
Here's another emailer. My 3 children never used a potty, but instead the plastic loo ring, which goes under the loo seats. When they're ready, they climb up on the stool or get lifted on. What are some of the different practical ways you can move from, as we said, all the way from nappies through to using an adult toilet? What are some of the options?
Well, there's 1,000,001 devices out there, from musical toilets to warmed toilet seats and deluxe potties. There's all sorts of things. I think there's a lot of debate about toilet or potty for training. To me, it doesn't make a lot of difference at the end of the day. If you train them on a potty, they will outgrow that potty. They're not going to be going to school and carting a potty around. The inserts in the toilet seats are quite good. When sitting on the toilet, the child needs to be sitting well back anyway, and an adult toilet seat is often adequate, as long as they've got something they can put their feet on to support their feet and they can lean forward a little bit. Some of the over-the-toilet frames, all the bells and whistles, have handles on the side, and the children will then automatically grip the handles, which closes up the pelvic floor muscles and makes passing urinal bowel motion impossible, basically.
So what you were saying is, don't be fooled by a whole lot of commercial advertising that says they need this, that and the next thing.
No, I mean, as far as I can remember, we never had anything like that, and I'm quite well toilet trained. So, yeah, you don't need them, but it's really up to each individual parent, being aware that any fancy toilet seats or things they may implement, they're going to have to cart them around with them everywhere, because if the child gets used to only using that piece of equipment, they're not going to go to a toilet out in the mall or anything like that, because they haven't got all their gear there.
What is your guest opinion, says this emailer, or experience with elimination communication, otherwise known as infant potty training? I believe it's based on the fact that we in the West use disposable nappies, and using disposable nappies potty train much later than the rest of the world, or much later than even 50 years ago. Do you have a view?
Yeah, 50 years ago with the cloth nappies, it was a double advantage, because the parent was more motivated to toilet train because it would save on the laundry. And also the child had more sensation of the wetting or soiling. It held it close to the body. It didn't draw it away like the disposable ones do now. So there was a little bit more motivation to get onto it back then, I guess. Now it tends to be, and this is my personal feeling from working with many people, it's what's expected. It's not that the child is actually indicating any discomfort or anything with the toileting.
It's very interesting about
being wet or soiling.
Actually taking away that sensation of being wet is very interesting, isn't it? All right, so I guess the point is not to sort of make as minimal fuss as possible, to be good about progress, and not for there to be sort of some kind of a reaction when things don't go wrong, or don't go right rather, and to accept that they'll get a little bit further as time goes by, I guess. But what are the early warning signs of problems?
Well, refusal to sit on the toilet is quite a big one.
At what sort of age again? I appreciate we can't put ages on it, but roughly where would you say?
Well, if a child is not ready in themselves to be toilet trained, then they may say yes, they want to please mum or dad, but actually they're not ready. So they may refuse to sit on the toilet. Some children will sit on the toilet and not do anything, and then 5 minutes later wet or soil. And I put that down to that they're actually trying too hard and closing up their pelvic floor muscles instead of relaxing them and letting nature do its thing. It's mostly about the child isn't ready and not complying with what everybody else is trying to do. And that's common. All you do is just leave it for another month and have another go.
What are the possible reasons for children with continence problems, and can they be physiological, or are they mainly more just whatever's going on emotionally or developmentally or getting in the way?
Okay, developmentally, if they've got an intellectual disability or anything like that, you've got to look at their actual age they're functioning at, not their chronological age. Rather, not their age in years, but what they're actually functioning at. What's their understanding? Are they capable of understanding the toilet training process? And if they're functioning as a 2-year-old when they're actually 4, they're not going to be ready for toilet training probably. The psychological things, in my practice, which is, I've been working in this role for 14 years, I've only met one child who deliberately soiled. It's not, to me, it seems that being incontinent, wetting or soiling, or whatever the problem the child might have, causes psychological or behavioural things, not necessarily psychological. And once the toileting issue is resolved, the child's behaviour changes.
So it's actually the anxiety causes the problem rather than the other way around?
The problem causes the anxiety.
I understand.
Yeah.
You mentioned plans earlier. What are some of the plans that you've sort of devised for people?
With toilet training? Just anticipate. Watch what your child is doing. How often they're toileting. What triggers them to toilet. How long they can stay dry. Plan a schedule around that. So if you know that they're going to pass urine at 10:05 every morning, offer them the toilet at 10 o'clock. It's seeing what's going on and planning for it. In preparation, you're using role modelling, and so if it's a male, he can watch the male go to the toilet perhaps, or little girls watch mum. You're watching for the signs that the child's actually passing urine or bowel motion and talking to them about it. So that's bringing in the language of toileting. There's some really good books about toileting to read to the child. And buy lots of underwear. Now, you don't want to begin toilet training 3 weeks before you have your next baby, or when the family's going to be moving in 2 weeks or something like that. You want to do it when life is calm and as organised and normal as it could be in your household. I mean, every household is quite different. So you don't want lots of changes going on while you're focusing on this.
Some questions for you. Hi there, I have 2 daughters. My eldest is 5.5, still wears nappies to bed at night. My youngest daughter is 3 and she's long since been out of nappies. She picked up toilet training immediately. The older one has always had trouble controlling her bladder. She says unable to hold on and doesn't seem to have that alarm that goes off in her head while she's sleeping that signals her to wake up and go to the toilet. I'm not sure what to do about it. Should we buy one of those bedwetting alarms? Do they work? We've tried rewards, being strict, etc. Nothing has worked. When should we start to worry?
Okay. We don't do a lot with children in regards to bedwetting until they're around the age of 7. There's three main reasons why children are bedwetters, and one reason is they don't wake up when they need to go to the toilet, and that's fine. We don't want them to wake up anyway. They need their sleep. Another reason is when we go to sleep, our body produces a hormone that stops our bodies making so much urine while we're asleep. And the third reason, and this is probably the one I see most often in my clinic, is that their bladder capacity is actually too small to hold the urine they make all night. So I would say don't worry about the bedwetting at 5.5. Brilliant that the younger one is dry, but that doesn't happen very often. Look at regular drinking and toileting through the day to strengthen that bladder. So it's filling and emptying right through the day. The bladder muscle gets stronger, the capacity gets bigger, and they'll get dry eventually. If it's the hormone that's not on board as far as reducing how much urine they make at night, there's nothing you can do to hurry that along. All you can do is prepare the bladder, basically, so when the hormone comes along, boom, it's done.
Thank you. We've just got piles coming in. It always happens as time goes by. Everyone gets into it. Right. My daughter's just turned 9. She goes for a week or nearly 2 being dry at night, but has never made it past the 2-week mark. Consequently, she still wears pull-ups just in case. My partner's always had to get up in the night to go to the toilets. And that's the same with other members of his family, whereas I never have to get up to go. My partner went through psychological and cognitive-based theories when a youngster to stop bedwetting, but none was successful and very reluctant to go down this road. I wonder how much of continence is genetic-based. Should we just accept that she'll be the one who has to get up in the night to go to the toilet? And secondly, is there a psychological component, i.e. should we take our daughter out of pull-ups and hope for the best?
Okay. Well, waking a child to take them to the toilet is not a good idea because it helps manage to keep the laundry down, basically, but it also trains the bladder to empty at that time every night. Now, there is a family component. The statistics say if one parent was a bedwetter, there's a 40% chance the child will be. If 2 parents were bedwetters, it's an 80% chance. In this situation, I would say possibly they have some symptoms of small bladder, low functional bladder capacity actually, and they need to do bladder retraining, both the child and the father, so they can get a good night's sleep.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled to hear that.
Yes, he will. There's a bit of a debate about nature and nurture. It's like, yes, there is a hereditary thing, but there's also the habits. And if everybody in New Zealand had a full glass of fluid every 2 hours and went to the toilet every 2 to 3 hours, there'd be no bedwetting in the near future. Yeah.
That's interesting, actually, because with all these drinks, just sort of different I don't want to stop you answering the question, all these sort of different soft drinks and stuff that are out there now, water, I suppose you get bored in the end with just drinking good old water, don't you? But is it the case that many kids are just drinking too much fluid or liquid for different reasons, perhaps?
What I find is that children will drink a good amount of fluid, but it'll be later in the day. So they're loading up their poor little bladder that's had no exercise all day later in the day, and their body's going to be processing that, and often they're wetters, whether it's because they're overloading their bladder or because they haven't been exercising their bladder during the day. The types of fluid is very, very important. You want to stay away from anything with caffeine in it, because that is a diuretic, so that makes the body produce more urine. It's also a bladder irritant, so it makes that bladder muscle get twitchy and they're more likely to wet. But, there's birthday parties, there's special occasions, and we all have a fizzy drink now and again. Some of the juices are also very acidic, and they will irritate the bladder, and also very sugary, which makes the urine more sugary and also irritate the bladder. Water is the best thing we can all drink, but, we all need a cup of coffee now and again. Well, not children, but... Yeah. Yeah,
for sure. Now, we never quite finished that story then. So what sort of retraining would both child and dad have to go through?
Okay. For the child, it would be have a drink with breakfast, have a drink before school, morning playtime, have half a bottle, and it's 5.5-year-old, I think a 500ml bottle would be good stuff.
9 this one was.
Oh, 9, sorry. Okay. I've got stats and things about how much fluid, but a full drink, 250 mils approximately, planned it around the school day. So there's breakfast drink before school, playtime, lunchtime, after school, tea time, and that usually meets their fluid needs. the important thing is the regularity of it, not fluid loading later in the day. So every 2 hours a full drink, more or less. More or less every 2 hours, and toileting every 2 to 3 hours. Now, if a child cannot hold on between toilet times and it's quite urgent and they have little leaks of urine, it's worth talking to the GP because they might have an overactive bladder which won't allow them to hold on.
People have different tolerances too to holding on, don't they? Oh, God, I've just had a Margaret Thatcher moment. Once a day is quite sufficient. I'm sure she said something to that effect, but people have different tolerances to what they're prepared to put up with, really, isn't it, in between sessions, shall we say. Now, this emailer says, I've used bedwetting solutions for both my girls when they reached 5, and within 1 week they were sleeping through the night, staying dry and no pull-ups. Girls now 14 and 7, never wet since. It's all about retraining the brain with a simple alarm system. Advice, don't spend night after night lifting before sleep. Just use pull-ups, and when your child is ready around 5, book the Wee machine. There is a more technical name. What are your views on the alarm systems?
I think they're actually great. But the child has to be ready. They're not suitable for anybody who has poor history of going back to sleep after waking, and some of the children who are on medication to help them sleep, it's absolutely not the right answer. The alarms themselves, I think, are brilliant. They have a very high success rate, about 80%, I think, and a very low relapse rate where the child will resume wetting. They work by training the brain to wake up when the bladder is full. And, very, very good, very efficient. But again, I look at the whole picture when I'm seeing them and look at making sure they're getting enough fluid. And
One more. Actually, this is quite a good observation. I knew a small child once who was terrified of toilets because, I believe, of the loo cleaner adverts on TV. Children can sometimes, God, remember long drops? I don't know if you do. That put me off going to the toilet for weeks at a time. You know, if you've got somewhere, as you say, that's particularly, that might be part of a scary end of the hall or something, it's worth keeping that in mind, isn't it? There's a reason why they, or in the night when it's dark and, spooky, little things that can put them off getting out of bed and going's worth thinking about, isn't it?
it is.
Just trying to think if there's another question here for you. That one's been done. My daughter's showing all the signs of being ready except wanting to sit on the potty or toilet. Do I just wait for her to come to that on her own? What do you think of sticker charts, etc.? Daughter's 26 months, has always been in fabric nappies. And also, what do you think of terry toweling training pants? Let's do the first question first. I think you've answered that, isn't it? That just follow her guidance, really, isn't it?
Follow her guidance. They can reward her with a sticker for sitting on the toilet or potty, but not for whether she actually produces a result. So it's practicing, it's not actually achieving. And with any reward system, I think it's the effort they're putting in, not the actual result, because they can't always control the result to start with.
Actually, I'm interested in your observation. This is a reward system that got used decades ago now, that this listener tried with both of her children. She says, wait till they're 2 when they can use the muscles. Take the child to the toilet, show them what it's for. Set a time during the week, talk about it a lot as something to look forward to. And then there's the new pretty knickers, underpants to show them, but they're not allowed to try them on. And then on a set day, a week later, the nappies are to be disposed of in front of them. Mum frequently asks if they want to go. Be patient, no fuss if accidents happen. I found with mine they train themselves within 2 days. That's pretty close to where we've been this morning, isn't it?
It is, but they've been trained in 2 days. That was just really, really great, but not very common.
Right, exactly. So don't overset the expectations. And I think this is worth discussing too, actually. There are a number of parents, says this emailer, who watch for and react to their baby's cues for needing to wee and poo from birth. This is not at all a matter of training the baby. Rather, the baby is training the parent to notice their needs and provide an opportunity to go on a potty at these times. We've done this with birth for our 2 sons. I guess it's a point, as you say, of understanding the cues and putting the cues in the context of where they are at and what they're capable of, right?
Yeah. At that age, the child will be toilet timed and responding to stimuli. You put them on a cold seat, it's going to trigger the urge to pass urine. It's not that they've actually got the awareness or control over it. It's timing rather than training.
And this emailer, I love it, but I think we're there. Simple question, how do I do it? With 3 question marks. Have missed 2.5, wants to wear knickers. Well, can we sum up? It's just talking to them about it. It is responding to their cues and hints, bit of role modelling. a bit of prompting about, do you want to go? And then when things go wrong, no fuss over mistakes, and just, gradually positive reinforcement.
Absolutely. If she's keen, put her in her knickers, but be prepared for accidents because they do happen.
Very good. Thank you very, very much for that. Really appreciate it. That is our guest, Marianne Caulfield, who is an incontinence advisor and nursing expert, and our guest this morning with toilet training.